In this level of my Best in Horror countdown, which pulls from any film released between October 1st, 2024 and September 30th, 2025, by the way, we look at the tender bond between mothers and daughters, and somehow, in the horror genre, that bond can be twisted and quite strange. This is ML Miller Freight's Best in Horror Countdown 2024 through 2025. FREWAKA
Waka waka
Chaka Khan
was released on April 25th, 2025, and is streaming on Shudder from DoubleBand Films and Wildcard Films. It's directed and written by Aislinn Clarke. After her mother's suicide, Shu, played by Claire Monelly, leaves her pregnant fiancée Mila to pack up her mother's apartment and goes to a temporary job to take care of an elderly woman because the couple needs the money. Shu arrives at the house of the elderly woman named Pig, played by Brid Ni Nakitan, and though she was under the impression that she was working with a stroke victim for a short period of time, Shu soon finds that Pig suffers from mental illness, specifically agoraphobia, hallucinations, and delusions that there are ancient beings from Irish lore out to get her. But the longer Shu stays with Pig, the more she realizes that these delusions may be all too real. While it takes its sweet time to get there, FREWAKA is a terrifying little folk horror filled with all kinds of unnerving imagery and paranoia so thick you couldn't cut it with the sharpest of knives. Reminiscent of the slow creep Polanski doles out in Rosemary's Baby, the signs are all around Shu as she gets comfortable in Pig's large house in the countryside. The neighbors give Shu sideways glances. The tree outside is decorated with strange ornaments. There's an annoying goat that keeps on popping up out of nowhere, and Pig herself speaks of something out to get her in her basement, adorning the entranceways of Pig's home with horseshoes and other totems meant to protect her from these creatures. And though Shu is skeptical, Pig makes a pretty convincing argument that something definitely is amiss. It all unfolds slowly, and while yes, I knew it was a horror movie I was watching and was expecting horror, I found myself intrigued to find out just what kind of horrors are tormenting this lonely elderly woman, or if there's anything at all, and both Shu and Pig are suffering from some kind of shared psychosis. I won't reveal which it is, but the answers are effectively terrifying. But you have to stick with FREWAKA
waka waka
Wiggin' whack!
to be rewarded with those answers and the escalating paranoia that unfolds from it. I know those who are used to more fast-paced modern storytelling will clock out of this one pretty quickly, as much time is taken to get to know Shu and Pig. Both of them present themselves as pretty unlikable characters, with Shu refusing to take part in packing up her dead mother's things and leaving it for her fiancé to do, and Pig being brassy and downright violent to Shu and anyone else who crosses her doorstep. Still, the longer you get to know these two seemingly different yet surprisingly similar characters, you find out just what made them such damaged people, and you begin to care. Claire Monelly is tough to get to know and tougher to like as Shu, but by the end, I was rooting for her. Same goes for Brid Ni Nikitan's Pig, as whether or not the monsters in her basement are real, she is a very sad and lonely woman. Most of the movie unfolds with these two characters in the middle of the frame as the terrifying things pile up around them, and they carry the film very well. The imagery that shows up in the nightmares, hallucinations, and in the really real world in FREWAKA
waka waka
are bone-chilling. Sure, the sack-headed stalker is always one of my favorite looks for a monster, but the ones that show up here take the cake. Add on some folksy reed stick masks and that creepy goat and an even creepier ginger kid, and you've got some moments that really are going to be burned into your brain pan. But sit back and relax with this one. It needs to simmer in order to be digested. I myself was getting a bit antsy at the halfway point, but thankfully, by the hour mark, things really get rolling into Nightmare Town and the chills start happening fast. There are some familiar beats in FREWAKA.
Waka waka.
This is a knick-knack, paddywhack. Give the frog alone, his old man's a rolling stone.
If you know your folk horror, the ending is not really going to come as some surprise. It seems like all of these folk horrors end in the same way, but it's done confidently and has an effectively strong emotional punch by the end. Writer-director Aislinn Clarke also did the faux documentary found footager The Devil's Doorway from a few years back. Clarke deftly orchestrates some great scenes of building tension and some downright nail-biting moments of sheer terror. If you have the patience, I think this Irish folk horror is going to burrow its way under your skin if you sit with it long enough. Another one that delved into the complex relationship between mother and child is The Surrender, and this one goes to hell itself to do it. Worth noting this time around is The Surrender. It was released on May 23rd, 2025, and is streaming on Shudder. It's directed and written by Julia Max. Robert, played by Vaughn Armstrong, is terminally ill and relies on his daughter Megan, played by the boys Colby Menifee, and wife Barbara, played by Kate Burton, to take care of him in his final days. When Robert passes, Megan tries to move on, but Barbara believes that she is able to resurrect him with the aid of a shaman, played by Neil Sandiland. Megan thinks her mother is simply avoiding reality, but also knows this is her way of processing the loss, so she concedes to take part in the extensive ritual. While bearing some strong similarities to the rituals that show up in the Philippou brothers' recent film Bring Her Back, The Surrender is a much more intimate look at grief and loss. Both have demons, protective circles, and rituals requiring specific steps in order to achieve a resurrection, but the perspective of both films are completely different, making The Surrender and Bring Her Back a near-perfect double feature. The Surrender zooms in close on Megan's plight, opening with her screaming in frustration and choking down a quick smoke before running back inside to help her mother with her ailing father. Right from the beginning, you know there's conflict happening here, and it's fleshed out so realistically in that first half hour. You don't realize that aside from a few weird totems that Megan finds by her father's bedside, there really is nothing supernatural going on. You would never know that this film will soon drag you kicking and screaming by the short and curlies to the dankest parts of hell. This drama is played straight, and it's all carried by actress Colby Menifee as Megan. She does a great job as the anxiety-ridden assistant to the Soups in The Boys, but here she handles a myriad of emotions, some that don't put her in the strongest of lights, but still manages to make you feel for her all the way through. Kate Burton does a great job as Barbara, a desperate woman grasping at straws to have a few more moments with her husband, but it's Menifee's Megan that really functions as the eyes and ears of the viewer, doubting what's going on, but attempting to go with the flow for the sake of those she loves. For the most part, The Surrender could be a stage play, as the bulk of it takes place within Megan and Barbara's home. I love the small scope of this film, allowing the performers to take center stage. This helps in the final half hour when all things literally go to hell as the women perform the ritual and end up within a witch's protective circle on the edge of the underworld looking for their lost father/husband. This is one of the most chilling depictions of hell I've seen in ages, maybe since Baskin or The Void, both of which sport some of my favorite hellscape depictions ever. In Surrender, hell is lonely and desolate, filled with blind souls just waiting to pull you in to join them. While this might be considered a slow burner, The Surrender ramps up the speed to breakneck, wrapping up with a solemn and poignant ending. The Surrender is a touching film about loss, but also sports some scenes of utter nightmare. It's on a much smaller scale than films like Hereditary and Bring Her Back, but deals with some of the same heavy themes. I highly recommend this heart-wrenching and spine-tingling little gem. From acting to drama to script to the depiction of hell, this is something you do not want to miss. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your own favorite movies of the year. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.